Look who it is. Well, we're back. And we're back on the Trans Am tonight. So, like I mentioned in, I don't know, last video or whatever it was, we got a little bit of fab work to do here. He got his new radiator in finally, the one that he wants to use. So now we're ready to build the upper bar that's gonna go between these over to here. And then we're gonna jump up to hold the rad, jump down to hold the intercooler, and then down again. And he wants to put the trans cooler in front of the intercooler down there. So, all that being said, we need this bar here to be removable, so it's a lot easier to get the motor in and out. So what we're gonna do is make a plate that goes in this area. It's gonna bolt down with 2 bolts here, and then we're gonna put 1 bolt through the side down there. So it'll come up, L that way. That'll give us room to bring the bar out on like a 45. In between these two all the way across, 45 back up, and then bolt that on. So we'll be able to unbolt those couple bolts, that whole bar will come out, then the rad can come out, intercooler, everything right out the top. And yeah, you got a ton of room to get in and out of the front of this thing. So all that being said, we have some 1 inch here that's left over. We have some 1 1/4 down here, and I have some 3/4. So my plan was, he doesn't really like the look of the 1 1/4 up on the top. So my plan is to use a 1 inch to go across here in between the rad and the intercooler. And then I already bent up this piece here, I don't know, a week ago or 2 or whatever it's been. And that's kind of gonna go like that. So it's gonna come down like this, around and then back up, and that's gonna hold the front bumper here up. This thing is like really far down. I don't know if you guys can tell, but this has to raise way up so that that marker light and the headlight there are level, and the same thing here. So that's kind of our little hoop that's gonna go in here to allow us to bolt the front bumper to it. And yet again, that's gonna go into that bar that we have. So I have this thing and it's long on both ends, and that's why. We know that these 2 bends here are 45 degrees, and that 45 will meet into the other bar, and so on and so on. So, without further ado, let's go ahead, bend up a bar, and yeah, let's get this sucker mounted, because I think for the long weekend here, he's gonna take this thing back to his place and try and do a bunch of the other stuff that he hasn't been doing yet. I guess he's got this weekend off, and yeah, the more I can get done, the more it'll help him out. So, let's go. Okie dokie, so you saw us grab the bender here, we've made our couple bends, bang bang, and here we are. So what I did was line it up in the car with the tape measure. I measured left to right to make sure where our center was. I put the tape measure this way, and what I did was mark, I don't know if you'll be able to see it, there it is there, that angle. So that angle is what's gonna match up with this piece right here. So what we're gonna do is chop that angle, minus 1/8 of an inch, because we're going to put a little piece of sheet there, and then before you know it, boom boom, we got our top bar. So with that top bar in place, we'll be able to make a little drop down bracket, because as you can see, we have quite the height difference between the rad and the intercooler. So that thing's going to be just under the top of the rad, so we need to come down a couple inches and out kind of like an L, like my finger is right now, and that'll bolt to the top of the intercooler. And then what we want to do is kind of go up and over and kind of go around the rad like this to kind of, you know, sandwich that top in there where we want it to be. So that is the plan. First off, we got to get this top bar mounted. Then we can figure out what kind of drop downs and whatnot we need to get to the intercooler and over to the rad. Once that's done, we'll lift the car up and we'll do the bottom, because this right here, I have a couple 4x4s down there in that blue square kind of holding it here. But we know that that is the height we want the bottom of the radiator at. So if I make something to hold the top, it's a lot easier to lift it up and fill the bottom in than it is to try and guess when it's up in the air. So with all that said, let's chop this pipe off and try and get something done tonight. Okie dokie, so I skipped ahead just a little wee bit, but I already explained what we were doing. So this bar right here we already had bent, and all I did was bend the end up. I don't know if you can see here that it's lower than there. So I came in and I just bent those two ends up to where they can meet this crossover bar. Now, what I did here was I notched this factory, I don't know what you want to call this, backer or whatever. It used to come out to like here maybe and come down kind of straight, so I notched it around the tube and we made our little templates. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 mounts for the front bumper. And then what I wanted to do was I'm going to come down like this and then forward to grab the top of the intercooler, and the top of the rad here, we're going to come off this bar out kind of like my hand. And we're going to wrap around the back side of the radiator. Now, what we are going to do with that one is I'm going to make it 1/8 of an inch too long and 1/8 of an inch tall. And that's because I want to use a piece of rubber. Steel and aluminum don't really like to get along together, so we're going to put a piece of rubber in between the two. And not only will that kind of stop some of the vibration in here, going back and forth like that, but it should help kind of sandwich that thing in. So that radiator is going to sit like this. The piece here is 5 1/8 inches, and then it's going to bend down here in the back 5/8 of an inch, so we can run a 1/2 inch piece of rubber and we're good. Now that will probably need like a little front wall, not just like all the way out and down like this. We'll probably need one in the front of the radiator to like pinch it. So we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Now the only other thing that I did do was I made these little plates here. I dropped one bolt in this side and one bolt in this side. I told you that we were going to bolt it so we could remove this thing. So that's our bolt there. And that's it. So that's where I'm stopping tonight. I have all my stuff here on a piece of Bristol board or, you know, Ram board or whatever. I have it here, so we're going to do some CAD, get it over to Dynamic, hopefully get it back tomorrow. And then I can finish up the top end of this thing and jump underneath. Like I said, the customer wants to get this thing out of here for the weekend. Today's already Tuesday, so Wednesday I should be able to get all this stuff back. I'll finish up this part of it, get it up in the air, so that Wednesday night I can try and do all the bottom stuff, connect the bottom of the radiator and come forward and grab that trans cooler, get that stuff done. So Thursday we can cut it if we need to, anything at Dynamic, and then I can install it Thursday because he wants to come get it Thursday. So, running out of time, I guess. I mean, if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done, but at least we'll have it damn close, or close enough that the rattle's sitting there, so when he does take it, you know, he can start making his hoses and all that kind of junk. So, that's where we're at. That's where we're quitting. It is almost 1:30 in the morning. So, time to go in, grab a couple hours sleep, and I'll catch you guys in about 3 seconds, but for me, it'll be tomorrow. Have a good one. All right, so we're back tomorrow for me, and I don't know, a couple seconds later for you. So Dynamic hooked us up. We got our piece here. Now, I was just going to make a plate that came down and then jump to this hole here and this hole here, and that was because I was going to leave all this open. But the more I think about it, this car has about nothing in the front for airflow, as you can see. So we're going to make a little scoop that goes just behind the front bumper here that's going to grab air and throw it up and through. Now, if I was to leave all of this open here, what's going to stop the air from coming up and over top the intercooler, the transmission cooler, and the radiator? There's not much. So I thought, well, if I make it out of a solid piece like that, at least if it comes up now, it hits that, and it's going to force it through those things to cool it off. So that's what we did. We also got this little baggie here of little brackets and gussets and whatnot. So that's going to be all of the little tabs here for the bumper bolts. And I'm going to put a little couple gussets here in the corner because I didn't make this super thick. So we'll put a couple little gussets that'll help hold the shape and, you know, hopefully help this thing from distorting it all. So all that being said, what we're going to do now is I just lined it up here, and it looks like our holes work for the bolts for the top of the intercooler. So that's perfect. So what we're going to do is tack this thing in a couple spots up here at the front. We're going to tack it here and over here, and then we're going to start lining up those gussets across it. We'll get all those tacked, we'll pull it out, weld it all, put it back in, and then we're about ready to lift this thing up and get going. So without further ado, let's do stuff. We were able to get this welded up. I did 4 gussets here equally spaced, and you know, I put a couple holes in there just so they weren't just plain. I used an angle finder on all the tabs here so we know that they're flat to where we need them. And then I just kind of, you know, stitch welded all the way across here, flipped it over, and I went in between those stitches just to kind of hold it from both sides so it can't really go anywhere. So now what we're going to do is, if you look at this dimension here, from the tube to the back and then from here down, that's an eighth of an inch too large, both in height and width. So that's because we were going to put that rubber in there like I mentioned. So he has an old mud flap right here that's the right thickness that we want. So I'm going to cut a little piece of that, kind of flip it over on both ends. We'll get this thing kind of mocked in place, and then that's going to allow us to lift the car up, and we can just put an axle stand underneath the radiator, pick it up, kind of press it into place, and yeah, hopefully we start building the bottom. So I think that's it for the top side. That's all the tabs and everything all welded in. I don't know if I'm going to put a nut on the bottom of these and tack it yet. That way you can just kind of thread it in from the top, or kind of make him work for it and stick his arm underneath and you know, hold a ratchet or whatever there. It'd be kind of a pain in the butt, but I'm not doing that tonight. Let's get this thing mocked up, try and get the rad sitting in place so he can take and start running, you know, rad lines and all that other stuff. So without further ado, let's go ahead and throw this thing into place and see how good we are. All right, so I saved you kind of the boring stuff. I just kind of loosely bolted that piece back in the top that we just made, lifted the car up on the hoist, and as you can see, we have our radiator right here. So it does hang down lower than the intercooler by, I don't know, 2 inches or so, but that's all right. So what I think I want to do is come down here with a plate across here and then kind of capture the bottom. So you guys know that I use Dynamic literally every day. I go and get something from him. And this is another example. So my plan was to do this all out of tube and try to like mimic this hoop right here down underneath and whatever. But no matter what we do, we're going to be adding a bunch of weight. And because this is a race car, we don't want to add a ton. So my plan is just kind of like I just mentioned, come down across and up. I think that'll be the lightest option that we're going to be able to get, and yet it'll work the best. It'll capture that whole bottom of the radiator so it can't go anywhere. Now, what I think I am going to do is, because this is a cooling surface, much like the bottom of this intercooler right here, I don't want to block this off with a solid plate. So what I think I'll do is I'll make 2 big ovals. We'll have a little strip in the middle, and then another, or like, excuse me, 1 big oval here, a little solid strip in the middle, and then 1 big oval there. And then because, again, this is a race car, what I think I'm going to do is open the bottom up on this flat section here where this bottom cardboard is. So because that's going to be done at Dynamic, there's not a whole ton of fab work to be done out here on that. Now we do have the transmission cooler, which is this unit right here. And it has these tabs right here, 2 holes right here, 2 holes right there, and the same on this side. So I did line up, I cut 2 extra of these little guys just in case, but I think what I want to do is kind of open up this slot a little bit, and with it sticking out like this, I can just run a small 3/4 tube straight down and then make this one kind of go around it with the, you know, the radius there. So I'll have just a small tube here, it'll bolt in the top, it'll bolt in the bottom, and then that guy, if we spin around here, that guy's gonna go right here in front of the intercooler. So if I run my tube down the side, as you can see, it's a real quick transition to jump right over onto the little hoop that's already there, this guy. So I think that's what we're gonna do. Now, yet again, because I'm gonna run to Dynamic to get that stuff, I will cut the pipes or the tubes to go in there tonight. I'll get the plates drawn up in CAD tonight, send it over to Dynamic. I'll get this bottom rad cradle, or I guess that's what we can call it, a rad cradle. I'll get that drawn up and I'll get that sent over to them. So first thing in the morning, you know, maybe I'm one of the first guys there sending emails at, you know, this late at night, and hopefully by tomorrow afternoon or so we'll have one. So that is the plan tonight. There's not a ton of stuff to do. I'll make it out of cardboard or the ram board or whatever, and as soon as I'm done, I'll bring you back, kind of show you what I'm looking at, and yeah, I guess we'll go from there. This will be kind of a short night tonight. We'll be back out tomorrow, get this thing kind of wrapped up, and then he's ready to rip, and he can take it and do whatever he has to do. So let's get her done. Just got back from Dynamic. Let's take a peek at what we got. So we have this piece here, and that's gonna go on the bottom of our transcooler. Transcooler is gonna bolt right there. These are here just to kind of lighten it up a little bit. This is gonna be our bottom rad mount. So this here is solid there. That's where that tube is gonna be that we're gonna mount to. And then this is open there so that we can get some air to the bottom of the rad. And we got some tabs for the top of the transcooler right here. This is for a different project. So that's what we got. Let's go ahead and get it welded in. So here you go. It's welded in place, as you guys just saw, welded and ground. So you can see the slots here where the cardboard is. That's where the air will pass through. We got it leveled left to right and front to back. And then if we look all the way up, we have our upper mount in place here to hold the top of the rad. So that's in, hood clears and everything, so we're good to go. Now what we want to do is take this piece for the transcooler, and that's going to mount kind of right here in the front like this. So the transcooler is set up front. It gives it about a 1/2 inch spacing off of the intercooler, and this particular transcooler has a big fan that goes on the front of it. So my hope is we're gonna make a little like kind of deflector here so that air will come underneath the bumper, hit our little deflector and start going up, and that fan is gonna start rerouting it straight back instead of coming up on that angle. That'll get the air through the transcooler, through the intercooler, through the rad, and then on the back side here we have 2 big, I think they're 14 inch, they might be 12, but we got 2 big electric fans on the back that are gonna be sucking that air through. So all that being said, you kind of know what we're gonna do. Now we're gonna go grab a couple of nuts and bolts here, slap them through the bottom of the transcooler, get the mounts in place, get the little pipe welded in there, and off to the races. GoPro deleted my outro, so we're gonna reshoot it now. As you can see, the car's gone behind me, and that's a good thing. That's 2 projects done and gone in the last 2 videos. We're starting to make a habit out of this. So I think tonight we're gonna get back on the trailer. I started working on that, started filming some stuff for it, and we're gonna be doing a whole bunch of modifications to the car trailer, try and make it a little bit more user-friendly, and hopefully just more usable in general. So I think we're gonna be working on that. We'll get back to some filming, but yeah, as always, I appreciate you guys getting this far. And who are we gonna shout it out to tonight? I know. Tough Duck. So tonight's video is brought to you by Tough Duck. These are the guys who supply us with the bib coveralls, insulated and non, some of the sweaters, t-shirts, boots, the COVID masks. They have everything. These guys are absolutely incredible, and to be 100% honest, I find their work boots more comfy than a lot of shoes out there. I wear these things all the time, and I absolutely love them. So if you're looking for some high quality stuff, toughduck.com is where you're gonna find it. Make sure you come back for the next video, and yeah, you never know what we'll be getting into. See ya!